Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to the first podcast ever for the High Five Guys. So we are launching a brand new podcast here for you and yours and your friends and your friends' friends and people you don't even know yet. So we are here. Our whole goal and mission, for this podcast is to spread positive vibes and high fives everywhere. Sprinkle them in. Maybe it's today, maybe it's tomorrow. Who knows when? But we are here to light up your world and hopefully light up ours as well. Make it a little more fun. But no, it's exciting, and I could not be doing this podcast without a better co-host with Todd Nakamura at the helm over there. Todd, go say hi to everybody.
What's up? How's it going? Yeah, good. Thank you, Mr. Host, pulling me into the mix. I'm already glad that we nominated you as the official host. So, yep.
No, you are welcome. Yep. So that's Todd, everybody, and then my name is Chris Rusk. But we are going to bring to you so much fun and energy, each and every podcast. That's our goal, and we'll go into a little bit more details about what we want to talk about and everything. But again, thank you so much for joining here. How did Todd and I get to know each other? So this might be something fun too. Is where why do you have two random strangers talking to me? I don't get it. So Todd does tell the story a little bit better, but I'll kick it off where we met at Mars Chocolate. So I graduated college, and back in 2006, I came across Todd as one of my coworkers, and probably one of the coolest people I met at Mars at the time too. And fortunately enough, he still wants to be my friend years and years later.
Yeah, it goes back a while. I mean, yeah, you were like this young pup when I first met you. You really were like, whatever. It's like, I mean, you were pretty recently out of college.
I was 21.
Yeah. It's crazy thinking about that. Yeah, that's unbelievable. But I was tech guy there, doing web stuff, and you came into the accounting department, right? But we were in the same division of Mars, right? The same My M&M's division, the custom messages and images on M&M's, right? And that's so we were in that little division within like the the corporate headquarters, actually North America.
Absolutely.
Headquarters.
Yeah, they make all sorts of products. So for those that don't know Mars Chocolate, you might know M&Ms and Snickers and Twix and Three Musketeers and now Wrigley, Five Gum, Uncle Ben's Rice. All of that is actually under the Mars umbrella. But we worked on a really cool portfolio that was all about the custom text and faces, images on M&Ms.
Yeah.
And Todd was the guy behind the scenes that made sure that we can actually we could first off print them, in the print shop, but also from a user experience, making sure that you had the type of experience that you expected to when you were placing your order. And then, my guy, the bean counter on the other end, was just making sure we made enough money so we could bring in some new concepts and just share some more moments of joy, right? Little moments of joy with each and every one of you.
You worked in the
Remember
slogans.
that tagline?
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, I'm sure people are gonna love that you said that. Yeah. It was an amazing place to work. That's one thing I'll say. Like, it was really cool for just building sort of like a family atmosphere, right? We had all these special days. We had the Bush driving team showing up for like a NASCAR day, and various sports days, right? And different famous people would be in the building at times. Like, it was just a really cool place to work. The holidays, that was crazy.
They did a great job just on everything. Yeah, the Halloween in particular, what Todd was saying, we called it Boo Bash, and everybody decorated their respective departments or areas of the office, and the children could then come in and trick or treat, just family members only. But it was a special event, and you think about those, they call it small moments of joy, right? It was fun. It made it a fun place to work. And so thankful. Ultimately, Todd and I aren't there anymore, but we've got to still, again, keep our friendship going. And honestly, I think it's stronger now, than it may have ever been, which is really, really awesome. Now we're older. Now I got a lot of gray hair, and I sometimes need some wisdom and so some good kicks in the butt to push me in the right direction. And Todd's been there. So definitely appreciate you, bud.
Good stuff. Yeah, and you were living in PA at the time, and you're now a upstate New York guy. Not too
Yeah,
far
go New
upstate, but
York
yeah,
State.
yeah.
Whoa, baby. I don't know. I'm a Pennsylvania. I was actually born in New Jersey. I was born in the town that Hackettstown where Mars is, but
Oh, I forgot
lived
about
in
that.
Pennsylvania,
Yeah, yeah.
and ultimately went to college at Penn State, worked in New Jersey. Todd was right. I drove 60, 70 miles a day each way, I should say, to work. And that kind of got wearisome. And I found an opportunity to move to upstate New York. So just north of Albany, New York, and very pretty, right in the footsteps of the Adirondacks, if you will. So
It's
it's been
awesome. I
great.
mean, yeah, I feel like it's such a gem that you live in up there, like Saratoga area, right? Like that town, the racetrack, just the parks.
There's
I
a
mean,
lot going on.
parks with like par 3 golf courses, car museums, full golf courses, mineral springs. Like it's a really cool area. It's really underrated. I live like a little closer to like New York City area. I'm in Jersey, but I'm like 45 minutes west of that about. And
Yeah,
you hear a little bit about Saratoga, but it's not known as like a hot destination around here. I'd say more you hear Lake George, Lake Placid, some of these areas. Normally something
absolutely.
that's you're about 2.5 hours away, right in that range. Sometimes you hear a lot more about it, but yeah, it's sort of more of a little hidden gem down this way. I'm sure up that way, closer you get, the more you hear about it. But yeah, we
Yeah,
always have a great time when I come up there. I mean, we're just kayaking, we're playing mini golf, we're playing disc golf, we're hitting pickleballs around. Like, it's always like just a blast. We're going to the racetrack.
it's a good time. The horse racing track is really just something you have to experience. Maybe you're not as big into horse racing or gambling, etc., but I think it's just the atmosphere. It's even just walking around downtown Saratoga and everybody's dressed up. It's a wonderful, it's a
yeah.
beautiful summer day. People are out, fancy cars, kind of just things you see on TV. You're like, oh, I can't experience this.
Chris is
And,
out wearing
it's right.
his bright blue suit, the suit that he
The
got
suit.
custom tailored.
Oh man,
that thing was turning heads all day long that day.
it
That was hilarious.
it's a special suit, so maybe that'll make an appearance on the podcast at some point. We'll
Oh,
tell the story about it.
Yeah, it's got to.
But yeah, so I mean, Todd and I, we are about 3 hours apart, so a little bit different background as you see here, but really excited to still partner with technology these days. 20 years ago, I don't think anybody thought this was possible, to be able to video record in remote locations and be able to have a podcast without a delay. I don't know.
We might have to check that stat. I mean, they were on the moon like many years ago. We'll see. Yeah, that's funny though. Not possible for us to do it. That's probably the best way to say it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, and I mean, a fun fact, just about Todd, like something I know about him. Certainly more recently, I might divulge too, but a talented musician. You've got something
no.
here just on. We got a microphone in front of him, but behind the scenes, this guy's a maniac. He self-taught himself with the guitar, a couple different types of guitars. I'm not going to go into them because I don't want to pretend I'm an expert. I'm not an expert on guitars. He can talk more about that, but he is definitely, created a musician out of himself. Absolutely self-taught and just really inspirational. And I don't think that comes off, or people who have known Todd, maybe never known Todd. There's a fun fact for you.
I like it. Yeah. It's a more recent thing. I would not call myself anywhere near an expert on those instruments, on the electric or acoustic, but I can do a little rhythm, keep a song go. It's more like I got into my friend Sean, who also worked with us, sort of coincidentally.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he got me into it a couple years ago. I was at his place and he just started, jamming away, and next thing you know, I was pulled in. We had done a little karaoke, right? Even us, Chris and I, done some karaoke, but that was like my whole music career up to that stage. And that one moment like kind of opened my eyes. And next thing you know, I was going to open mics with Sean, just singing. And then after that, I wanted to expand more. I wanted to be able, like, be able to play my own songs too. So then I got a guitar and just started hacking away, and I got obsessed with it. So yeah, that's been
Nice.
a whole lot of my last couple years.
I feel like that again at some point in the future we'll have a special segment where Todd performs,
Oh
or
yeah, yeah, yeah. We'll take him.
music will be a part of the
We'll take
podcast.
them out.
So
We'll,
for
we'll show
sure.
them what an open mic looks like and stuff. And yeah, for anybody maybe who hasn't done it, might want to. It's you meet the best people too. That's the main
Yeah.
thing I love is like the community is awesome. You go out, everybody's super supportive. You just meet these like-minded people. When I first went out, I'm like, oh man, like this is my tribe that I've been looking for. I found this set of people that are all trying to do the same thing. Again, super supportive, artistic people, smart, talented. Like it's really cool. I just love being a part of that community, and kind of brought you into the mix a little bit, right? Chris does his little rapping, and he's got some high pitched singing. He surprises you. You get him on the right songs, and he'll surprise you.
Yeah. Now we will share a little bit more about that, I'm sure, in future episodes. And it's been great. I've enjoyed actually Todd's, opened my mind up in terms of open mic night and just experiencing some different things, and and getting me out of my shell.
And I got one fun fact for Chris. When we were at Mars, I just, I thought whatever. I hope this doesn't come out wrong, but he was just like, he was a regular guy, like whatever you want to say. I mean, he's an accounting guy, a guy that everybody loves. I'll say it that way. Is just really, really, really good energy. He's that guy that just like, just gives you kind of like a boost of positivity anytime you meet him. And hopefully I'm not embarrassing too much, but sort of reinvented himself after that as this like competitive athlete. And I mean, I know you did the racquetball, you did some of these other things, but it wasn't like, that's not how people would have known you. They wouldn't have known you as like a competitive athlete.
No, that's fair. That's fair, especially back then.
Yeah, and next thing you know, it's like just through the years since then, and again, that's going back a number of years, right? But since then, you just see him popping up on social media with he's training, he's running at least a mile a day for like 4 years consecutively. He's doing triathlons. He's buying these fancy road bikes, and he's putting in crazy miles like year round. Just became a beast. And I just watched him do the New York City Marathon this year. It was insane. Absolutely insane.
Thank you for being there.
It was awesome.
The support.
What an experience. That was so fun. I didn't expect to love it that much. I mean, we both have like a bit of a love of running and stuff, but actually, I'm more, even sounds silly, but watching it as opposed to running myself. Yeah. I play lots of sports, but I'm not in love with just like the straight running. But I do like to watch. I'm into track and Olympics and things more than your average person. But yeah, Chris has become one of these guys. He's out there and he's in the running clubs and all that stuff. So it's cool. I've loved to watch that actual transformation. Like, most people aren't actually able to transform themselves in that way, and I feel like you actually did.
No, I appreciate that, and I think for me, the racquetball you mentioned was a great thing that I did in my life. I played for 15 plus years, and one of the best things ever in terms of working out but not feeling like you're working out. And that actually was awesome. And it transitioned to running where I didn't think I would enjoy it as much. And here I am. I am running. New York City was fantastic. We'll be able to share more of that with you all, but it's been great. So staying active. And so that's some of the stuff that you'll hear in this podcast, which is give you an idea of what we want to talk about. So I think the way that Todd and we were talking about what we want to achieve and what type of people we want to reach out to is, this podcast is going to be really like a lifestyle sort of current events type of podcast. We want to share, things about, our experiences, maybe things that are current. You hear something on the news or on SportsCenter or on CNBC that might be, of interest. but also, tailor our experiences as well, and hopefully share some really good stories with you on, what we were able to experience, or maybe things to do and not do. I know Todd and I had a nice little venture in stock trading and option trading, and the whole goal, I think, with many people is to make money. The good news is we made some money on certain stocks and certain trades, but we've also had some bombs of trades that I think went the other way. And man, don't want to relive them, but if it gets us more likes and subscribers,
it's actually incredible.
But
I look back at what I did there. It's incredible how much I just sort of went sideways overall. It's stunning. Like, based on the number of, just how I was definitely over trading at points, but I had some highs and I had some fairly lows, but it's weird how it just overall leveled out. But yeah, that's been my end result at the moment, is just sort of level, which is not great, but whatever.
So yeah, so adding to what Todd said, we're going to talk about maybe work experiences, bucket list type activities, favorite travel places, some, again, current event type activities, things we've done to the house. Todd and I, both own a house, so what's worked, what hasn't worked, and things that we've done to the house, and you name it. That's just like tip of the iceberg, but we're going to make it fun. Again, the whole thing is, you don't know us yet. So sorry to cut you off, Todd. Let's say you don't know us yet, but through these stories, I think you'll be able to also get a better understanding of who Todd is and who I am, and hopefully have some fun along the way.
Yeah, and I think sometimes we'll even just talk about things like just the tech of the podcast itself. I mean, we're still dialing in. We're gonna listen back to this. We think we sound pretty good. Hopefully, we're hoping.
Yeah.
But like we'll even go into some of those technical aspects. What mics are we using? What's our kind of whole sound chain that we have going? What software we're using? All this stuff, right? So. And we'll tweak it over time. We're going to get better. This is the very first one, right? I actually have a bunch of different mics to test out with. This is just the first one that I'm trying. I may end up not liking it. Maybe I try another one, and you hear it, you hear those differences. And I've gone on these crazy rabbit hole deep dives into mic channels. I've watched hours of these guys on YouTube. So we'll actually talk about all that stuff too. So if you're interested in like a podcast yourself, start one up. There's probably quite a bit of insights we can provide, just even on things like that.
Yeah, it's a great point. I mean, we've seen all the cool kids are doing it, right?
Yeah.
And the uncool kids. Yeah. I'm still an uncool, not cool kid, but it's great. And again, we have our own perspectives, and ultimately want to share, positive vibes, again, with each and every one of you, because I think we need that more often than not with all the news and just everything that's going on these days. What you'll not find is probably like long political rants. You probably won't find stuff about, I don't know. I couldn't name it, but basically it's all positive in nature. Just keep that in mind. And shaping some maybe negative experiences to positive.
Yeah. That's what we hope to be. Yeah.
And we did talk about current events. So like we said, that might be part of the podcast as well. And I think we've got something really timely in terms of current events that both Todd and I had a chance to experience over the last week or so. And one of them was this amazing ground moving experience.
Oh, okay.
Otherwise, I guess known as an earthquake.
Yeah.
But yeah, I experienced something up here, but Todd was much closer to where the epicenter actually was.
Yeah.
So what did you experience?
Yeah, it was pretty wild. I mean, it's not just quite in, you wouldn't quite say my backyard. Actually, you probably would say kind of in my backyard. It was 30 miles away was the actual epicenter of
that's close.
Of the biggest one that hit. Yeah. So that was like 10:20 in the morning, something like that. Right.
Yep.
And like a lot of times you're sitting around and like, I have a military base that's not too far away, but I'm close enough that like you'll occasionally hear like artillery going off and it rattles the windows a little bit, right? You get some of that kind of thing. I'm in a pretty, one thing to know, I guess, it's worth just knowing. I'm in a somewhat rural area. There's not a lot of like big
Yeah.
trucks going by. There's not like a highway going by. So I don't get a lot of, some people are familiar with like, living in a street that's well traveled. Just a big truck going by can like rattle your house a little bit, that kind of thing, right? So I don't have that. But so this started out like the first, I would say the first like 5 seconds or so. It kind of, what I thought it was like that, one of these typical artillery. I'm here, like I'm feeling a little shaking,
Yeah.
and then
Sure.
but it just kept going. It just kept going, and I'm like, what the heck is this? So my next thought is, and it started intensifying, and I'm like, is there like a truck driving through my front door? Not going by, but like, did an
Yeah, yeah,
Amazon
yeah.
truck like
Yep.
take a detour and just fly through my garage door or something? And so and then
Express delivery.
I'm looking around. I just happen to be like walking around my house a little bit. I live in this little ranch. I happen to be walking like actually right about here in my place, and
Sure.
and then it just intensified again. It leveled up again, and I was actually holding this laptop, funny enough, that I'm recording on right now, just by chance. And I'm looking around, and now all of a sudden the walls are shaking, and now the windows are rattling. And next thing you know, the weird thing that happened. So I in that moment, I'm like, oh, this is an earthquake. That was, I would say it was about 10 seconds in total from when I truly felt it. This is definitely an earthquake, no doubt about it. I turned, I ran for the front door. I ran right out there because I heard like some, I wouldn't quite say a ton of creaking, but a little bit. But I heard enough rattling where I'm like, I'm not gonna roll the dice that my roof does not collapse. And I know, yeah, you run to a bathroom, whatever, but literally, like, the front door was actually one of the closer things for me. So I just went out, and by the time I was running out, it was vibrating enough that I couldn't see straight. That's a weird thing about an earthquake.
That's
I couldn't
intense.
see straight. It was like, I'm not sure what to compare it to, but just you're on some bouncing platform, right? Like that's like on a ride, like on a roller coaster or something. You actually can't see straight. Your whole world is bouncing around.
Yeah.
So as I was running out the door, that's what I was experiencing. And then then I'm looking around, and it's just it was very apparent that this was an earthquake, and it probably went on another 10 seconds, like while I was outside too. So it was wild.
Yeah. And by far the biggest earthquake.
Oh
you've
yeah.
experienced.
There was that other one back in like 2012, whatever. Right? That was centered in DC, and that was a little bigger one. I think it was like a 5.8. And the weird thing about the East Coast, right, is, sorry, I deep dive for a second, but the way our ground is built, like just the geological structure, I guess, of the East Coast is there's a whole lot of like granite. There's a lot of like really hard ground. So the tremors translate a very long distance, like way farther than it does on the West Coast or, other places. So we actually,
that's a good fun fact.
Yeah, we did feel that DC one to some extent, but in that it was like I think that was a 5.5 or something. So they would have felt it very heavy. But up here, it was, it was very light, but it was a rumble. But this one was a different thing. It was a 4.8, but it was a different thing.
And absolutely, I mean that's nuts to be that close though, and and experience it and see the shaking. And I think what's really cool is that we all have different experiences being in the same general geographic area in the Northeast. I know some people, Todd knows some people that didn't feel it. Right? Maybe you were driving, maybe you were doing something outside of just sitting or being in a house where you didn't feel anything necessarily. Mm-hmm. We felt it up here too. So as crazy that it was, I think it was, like you said, 10 o'clock in the morning, 10:21. I'm on a call actually, and I'm talking to the guy. He's in Georgia. It's not like he's close. So he has no idea like what the weather is up here. And I said, it was a nice day, a sunny day. And all of a sudden my chair was shaking a bit, same chair that I'm sitting on today, right, was shaking a bit. And very odd, but immediately my mind went to, this is an earthquake. And
that was your first thought?
First thought.
Okay. Yep.
Because to your point, I also live in a community where there's really not much going on in terms of heavy trucks. The
Mm,
highway's relatively close by, but wouldn't do something like that. Maybe a low airplane, right? You think about someone flying that low, and if weather patterns are cloudy up here or rainy, they tend to fly over where I live, but not 10-20 on a sunny day. And I told her, I go, we're having an earthquake here. And it's just silence on the phone for 10 minutes or so while the one glass of flowers, the pot of flowers here, if you will, on the table was shaking a little bit.
mm,
And again, the plates and cups were banging slightly. It was unreal. And Joe asked me, so my girlfriend, she goes, "Did you feel that?" I was like, "Yeah, I did."
yeah.
And same thing. I mean, I don't think I've experienced a heavier earthquake than that. I did experience the one in New Jersey. I think the one you're talking about. I was at Mars. Coworkers experienced it. I was also in the same building
Mm,
as hundreds of people. There in Hackettstown. I didn't necessarily feel it, but everybody else did.
mm. Yeah.
And
And that's an interesting
just
thing. That's one thing I've noticed, just polling different people, right? My mom doesn't live so far away from me, down the shore, right?
yep.
So I think she'd be more like maybe 60 miles from the epicenter, something like that, but just in a
Okay.
different way, right? And so I think, what she described was definitely not nearly as severe as what I went through. So
Yeah.
yeah, it depends on where you sit on the tectonic plates and all that stuff. So it's interesting geological facts, I guess.
Yeah, and I mean, when you think about the Northeast, you think New York City, Big Apple. You don't think earthquake, and
Right.
it really just kind of shows maybe also just changing of the times. You could say I don't want to say climate change necessarily, but just the world, the Earth is evolving every single day. Things are moving, things are shaking, and who knows, when or if there's going to be a big one up in the Northeast. But that was certainly a shock. It made the news for sure.
Yeah.
And a regular April day turned into something a little bit different because of that earthquake.
Yeah.
April, was it March? I don't even know what day that was.
Um, April. Yeah.
Okay, all
Yeah.
right. See, I'm getting my months are all mixed up and time mixed up
Yeah.
here. So interestingly enough, we also had a secondary natural phenomenon experience happen in April, which was the solar eclipse. This big thing that I think both Todd and I didn't really think was a big thing until it was blasted over the news the last few days and few weeks leading up to April 8th, where the actual total solar eclipse, 100% totality, they call it, was heading up into New York State and the Adirondack region. And so my neighbors, huge, like they knew about this years ago. I had no idea until a couple days before that this was truly something to see, like a spectacle. And we ended up going out up into the Adirondacks and Lake Placid to go watch this total solar eclipse. And it was going to be mid-afternoon. People were saying you have to leave the day before. Traffic is going to be nuts. We left at 6 in the morning and had an easy ride up, which is great. We had a great time. We took our dogs as well. So we have a yellow lab named Duck. He came in up for the ride. Our neighbors had two dogs. We took them up and went to just this really amazing, picturesque place to view it, which was actually the Lake Placid. It was the horse show. So they used to do some horse showings there, and maybe still do. There's an airport right there, and when you turn around, you could see the big ski jumps that they used for the 1980 Olympics, which is
Mm.
just a really cool backdrop. Perfect day, sunny day, and again, had a great time. We were getting ready for it. We camped out, so I dressed up in really warm clothing because it was 30 degrees when we got there. It was supposed to be close to 55, 60 degrees. And sure as you know it, come noon, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, had shorts on, t-shirt, and we made some sandwiches. Dogs are having a great time. They're walking around, people watching all this stuff. And then the eclipse started happening. So you have these fancy glasses that you're supposed to wear, right? So wear these, protect your eyes, okay. And I mean, it's really crazy. It works. You look at the sun, you can actually look at it with your eyes, but you could see the partial eclipse happening. And what nobody really knew, there were a few people there we talked to that experienced a total solar eclipse before, but
And in the totality zone, you're saying?
in the totality zone, people were saying, or the news was saying, you watch some YouTube videos, that if you're even in a spot that's 97, 98%, it's not totality. It may get a little dark or darker than, it would normally be at 3 p.m, but it's not going to be this full blown experience that you would see at 100%. So that is why we made it a trip up. It was, about a 2-hour drive to get to Lake Placid for us and experience it. And come 10 minutes before, you could feel it getting cooler. It was noticeably getting cooler. All of a sudden had a jacket back on, put long pants back on. Everybody's watching with the glasses. And then, a minute before, it's really starting to get more dark. Things are starting to get more quiet. Lights went on. So some of the cars had automatic headlights. So those actually turned on for some of the pets that were maybe inside the cars. Even Duck, we had him inside the car. But when 3:25 struck and you can just, you had the glasses on and all of a sudden experienced like full totality, you take him off and it was just another type of experience. Unbelievable. Like just moving. Just the fact that you could see this aura of the sun and, that's being masked by the moon was phenomenal. And, the fun fact that I had no idea until like the day before was the reason this whole thing can happen is because the moon is 400 times closer than the sun is to the earth. But the moon, and the moon is about 400 times smaller than the sun. If those ratios weren't that close to each other, there would not be a total solar eclipse, ever on Earth, which was interesting. Didn't know that.
Or I guess if the moon was like way significantly bigger, it would totally blot it out, right? Where you wouldn't get like that ring around it.
Yes,
yeah, so
that's a really great point.
Goldilocks zone that like really makes it a show, I guess.
Absolutely. And then, for fun for everybody here who wasn't there, just wanted to share with you a quick final like 10, 15 seconds of the eclipse as it happened. So let's see if this comes through for everybody. But I'm going to click play.
All I had to do was just turn it down dark.
I got it too.
Look at that, everybody. Yeah. It's coming back. Oh! And so that was the experience. That whole end where you saw the diamond ring, they call that at the end as well as the beginning, but just was phenomenal how bright that shined. And when you had solar filters on, let's say a camera, a digital camera, a nice telescope, etc., that's the photos that you see out in mainstream media where it's the full like black moon covering the sun, and you've got that. I say aura. There's a technical name for it. I don't know what it is. So I forget. Yeah. Maybe that's the way I should say it. But it was incredible. And as soon as it was done, so there's the whole eclipse that leads up to the total eclipse, which is about an hour and 20-ish minutes of the sun being more and more blocked out. Then it goes the other way. The sun is now coming back more and more to the tune at like 4:35, an hour or so later. It was going to be completely, normal day, no eclipse whatsoever. But 5 minutes afterwards, people were already lined up to leave. And the trip that took 2 hours to get us there took 5.5 hours to get home. And it was, we knew the traffic was going to be bad and whatever. We expected that. We expected to take longer to get home. The highways were going to be slow, fine. But we didn't take any food out. And by the time we got on the highway, it was almost 2.5 hours actually just to get to the highway, which is 20 miles away. we're like, we're not stopping the car. We're just going home. We're starting to get we're hangry. I don't have any snacks. They're all in the trunk. But if we stop the car, then, it's going to just even take longer to get home. So we survived. We had at least drinks in the water. Duck was a champ in the car. And by the time we got home, had a little food, but this solar eclipse, I will say, I mean, it did bring me to tears. It actually was more emotional watching videos the next day, not just what we saw, but what other people saw. Like you saw on news, or you saw people post on social media. That actually made me tear up. It was just, it was something special just to be a part of.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Now I know you had an experience.
Yeah, it's hilarious. It was nothing burger. Like it didn't even it's not even going to make my top 3 natural phenomenon like for the past 2 months. I mean, no, literally, I'm not. Because first of all, it was pretty clear all day, and then just as the eclipse was about to happen, big clouds rolled in where I am. And then, I think we were in the 10% zone, something like that. It got dark, but a lot of it was dark because of the clouds too. With 10% poking through, it's actually not that dark. I did hear some bugs out. That was the only thing I would say that was cool. The temperature dropped, and I heard like nighttime bugs.
Yeah.
However cool you want to say that is, that was how cool it was by me. That was how great. Yeah, it just was. It wasn't anything. It wasn't moving at all. So it's definitely worth it was worth making the trip into that totality zone. You also had better weather there. My sister also went. They had great stories. They said it was awesome. They said it was nothing.
And where did they go?
She had experienced the 2017 one, and she said it's just completely different, totally different to experience the totality. They ended up somewhere in like Vermont. They just drove up a lot.
Okay.
Yeah, they're somewhere in Vermont. Something
yep.
Like that, but similar story too. It took forever to get home, but that was.
They say it's worth it.
It was. It had to be the way you describe it. I promise you, it was, at least especially where I am. It was nothing. It was barely nothing. Yeah.
And that's sad. I mean, I know there's a lot of, let's say school kids, young kids, where they did a nice job still touting that this is something that doesn't happen on a regular basis. So, get your glasses, go out there and experience it. And for the most part, if you have a nice clear day, that's going to be your best type of experience. But absolutely.
And I did,
I mean,
except for the 10 minutes of when the eclipse happened. That's when the clouds came in.
No.
Yeah. it was crazy.
Yeah, a fail. The clouds failed you. They wanted to be a part of it. I think maybe, but shoot. But you know what? What's really cool too is that we both had experiences in an earthquake and a solar eclipse. At the same time. There were parts of the U.S. that didn't get a chance to do that, and the fact that we could share stories and actually have a laugh about it too.
Happened within
I think
3 days of each other. It's just absolutely crazy. I think it's 3 or 4 days. Yeah, it's crazy.
That's spectacular. That is something again won't happen again. In our lifetime. At least a solar eclipse, especially for this area, for the U.S. that has a good chance of seeing it. They said is really 2045 is the next chance where it kind of will go throughout the US. I'm sure like 12, 13, 14 states, whatever. So we've got some time, Todd, and we can make a trip. We could do something fun. Yeah. We'll do a road trip. Hopefully we'll still be friends by then. But the other part of the episodes of what we want to share with you all too is just high fives. They're not just high fives. They are high fives. They're giving shout outs to people, to things, to experiences that, not only, let's say, made our lives better, but hopefully make your lives better. Maybe you've experienced as well. And so we want to do this every episode is give a high five.
High five of the week. Right?
Each time we have high five of the week, high five for each podcast that we do. So we each get one. So it's not fair to say, oh, mine's better than yours. So we're not doing that. We each get one. And this time around, Todd, go first. Who is your high five of the week?
I mean, it's actually not a who, but an organization. So my high five of the week goes out to women's college basketball. Yeah.
I
I
agree with
feel
that.
they by far hit an all-time high. It's not even close, right? Like they had the just amazing story everybody knows by now. Caitlin Clark started last year, right? Started last season with this whole showdown with like Angel Reese and LSU, Iowa, LSU.
Absolutely.
And the you can't see me stuff, whatever,
Can't see
right?
me.
All that going on. But just continued through this season with Caitlin Clark breaking like every record that exists. And then into a tournament and just, even taking it to another level. All the big players came out to play, right? Like, Iowa ends up clashing with LSU in that Final Four or whatever that was, right? I think it was Final Four or no, maybe Elite Eight.
Is
I think
Elite
that was
Eight. It was in Albany.
Played. Yeah.
It was in Albany. Should I have gone?
Probably. Yeah. I mean, to me, it sounds silly because I'm not some expert on women's basketball. I watch a little WNBA here and there, watch a little college basketball, but nowhere near an expert. But this year, it just it had me in a chokehold. I was.
It was riveting.
Yeah, I started watching all the games. I mean, it was way better than the men's side. If anyone disagrees with that, you're flat. You're just wrong. This year, I think you were flat out wrong. It was on the men's side. It was basically just how much will UConn win by. That was pretty much what it came down to. The women's side was just story after story. I mean, it's South Carolina going undefeated. This ridiculous juggernaut. Caitlin Clark being this all-time essentially like the Tiger Woods or the Jordan of women's basketball. I mean, that can be debated too, but she'll have to do it at the pro level, right? But
but that's a great point.
It just was an unbelievable confluence of stuff. Like, just became the biggest story. So yeah, I just thought that was really cool. And I don't know, we'll see if they end up lifting the whole WNBA like the way that Tiger Woods did, or the way that Magic and Bird and Jordan did. It'd be interesting to see if that happens.
Yeah, it was definitely, to your point, just super exciting to watch. Just every week, every game, frankly, Caitlin Clark was breaking a record, some sort of record, and just to watch the shooting, to watch the we'll call it presence on the court. I think that's what surprised me. I'll admit, the championship game, I think there were a couple shots where, she was trying too hard. I felt like she was shouldering, or felt like she had to shoulder a lot. But the way that she saw the court and passed the ball, it's like some of the assists that she had, it really was, I don't want to say eye-opening, but it was really like someone smart, someone with a very high basketball IQ was playing this game. And it happened to be Caitlin Clark, for a lot of the highlights and whatnot that you saw.
Well, and the opponents too are fantastic. I mean, there's a lot of freshmen out there who are unbelievably good. And South Carolina, South Carolina is just a terror of a team. They were unbelievable. And to know that they graduated most of their people from last season, they're mostly in the WNBA, and it was mostly a new team. Is wild. Then you come out and go undefeated. It was just story after story after story, for that they had on their side. So amazing.
Absolutely. No, I think it's great. That's a great high five. Women's basketball definitely, especially like you said, 23-24 this season, piggybacking off of last year, I think has been really great. Not just for, I'll call it women, and women's sports, but just sports in general. I think, a lot to talk about, which is great. And hopefully a lot more eyes on the sport and women's sports in general, in the future. So it was exciting. I'm thinking about my high five. It might be as exciting. Maybe it's not as sexy, but my high five of the week is tax filing software. So why on earth would, we had, taxes were due on Monday, and I know today from Massachusetts, there's a special thing. Don't want to get in all of that, but so who would have thought, back to a conversation earlier in our podcast, but now you can go onto various platforms and essentially, instead of waiting for an accountant to get back to you, weeks, a month later doing your taxes, you have this software where you can even upload PDFs or your stock trading portfolio documents. Frankly, like that's what happened to me. I didn't have to input any of my trades in 2023. There were some wins, there were a lot of losses, but it basically took the software. I used Tax Slayer in particular, but I know, frankly, the many softwares will take that data, whether it's PDF or Excel file, and automatically import everything for you. And you don't have to worry about it. And it calculates, whatever. It calculates your whole 1040 for you, any additional documents, all of that, behind the scenes work where it's almost like a cell phone where you don't even care how it works. You just press the button and hope it's done. And then you just hope it basically says you get a refund at the end of the day. Honestly, I think it's come along. It's made lives easier. It's made, I think, people feel more confident in doing their own taxes. Unfortunately for, accountants, you could say maybe it's done less work, but I honestly, tax filing software, I think, has gotten smarter and smarter each and every year and has adapted to just all the new technologies. Just think about it too. Every year there's new, tax codes or things that change. And we don't take a second to think about it. We just hope that we go on the website and type in some information and just it'll do it for us, and we can e-file it, and then we get a check into our bank account, or let's say direct deposit if that's the case. Just unreal. And honestly, that is my high five for the week, because it definitely has made my life easier. I know taxes for me has been like a thing, almost you could say a hurdle that shouldn't be as difficult as it is. And frankly, I was very impressed with how easy it was just to get it done. And yeah, very thankful for it. So that's my high five of the week.
Okay. Yeah. It's impressive. I bet you there's some AI going on in there that's doing a lot of ugly stuff under the covers. That's my guess. But yeah, cool. It's come a long way.
That's a fair point. And to your point, like you gave a shout out to living human beings. I gave a shout out to this technology, right? High fives could be anything, and you'll come to find that across some more episodes. And each week when we do give a high five, maybe it'll be a little bit different, but it's great to see how different minds work too, on what we think is worth shouting out. And maybe you guys have a shout out, as people that are following along as well. Think about that. Who would you give a high five out to this week, right? Who has made your life better? What has made your life better? It'd be nice to even recognize it. So if you haven't done that, take the time and just thank somebody, or actually thank a piece of software for helping you out. Thank someone for elevating the whole game of sports and athletics, right? So do that each and every week, because we are, and it's fun.
All right.
Yeah, and I think, with that, we want to end on the high five. So with that, this is a first episode wrap right now. We are done, and hope you've enjoyed it. And my internet's telling me it's trying to reconnect. So we're going with this, right? But I think it's been such a fun time, Todd, really doing this with you. I can't wait for future episodes. I mean, it can only get better. And you've got some really great energy. Todd's really fun to work with, not just, on this podcast, but just a personable guy. And I think we'll be able to share some really great stories, make some good memories with you all, and be able to share some positivity and create some really great moments together over the next several episodes. And
I think probably something we didn't mention is guests too. We're definitely going to have guests. I'll probably get guests from like the music community. I know Chris was going to get some like what do you call pickleball people. Various people, just various.
Anybody.
Yeah, just anyone, people with interesting stories, that kind of thing. So yeah.
Absolutely. We'll throw that in too. And again, make it engaging. This is supposed to be fun, right? Conversational in nature, and ultimately just bringing those positive vibes and having fun doing it. So that's the whole goal with life. If you're not having fun, what are you doing? Mm-hmm. And, we really want to make sure that you guys are having a great time. and hopefully being better off by listening to our podcast. And having said that, you can find our podcast on many different social networks that are out there, whether it's audio only, whether it's YouTube, video platforms. More to come with that, but we'll be out there.
Yeah, we'll be on the podcast platforms. YouTube for sure. So, but yeah, we
and how can they find us, Todd?
Like various socials. High Five Guys. You'll find us out there.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. And we'll talk about, we'll have it in the description of the show. So, yep.
Perfect. Any last words?
No. Let's get after it. That's it.
Awesome. All right. Thanks so much, everybody, for tuning in. First episode done. High Five Guys are out. See you on the next episode, everybody.
All right.
Take care.
Good stuff.
Bye-bye.